high time for all of us to think about our power and also to mobilize those power in a positive change that will change not only individuals' fate but also the nation's fate, that is going to be truly very important for all of us. I think the last few days that gives us one opportunity to understand young minds are always very good in terms of identifying the problems and issues, and they have also at the very same time they have solution with them, that how those things has to be aligned in a proper manner so that we can see that well things go along in a proper shape. And that's why I would say that well, if we believe in that thing, that we are very good at identifying problems, and if we understand that we also know the solution of those problems, obviously we can also identify our own life's problem, and understanding those problems we can actually change our own career and own journey of life in a positive direction so that we all can actually ultimately reach to the success ladder. And it is very important for all of us to understand. Particularly in the context of our country, I would say that well, all of you understand the country has gone to a point, an enormous number of young youth students in our country. Many of them are actually graduating every year. Hundreds of thousands of students are graduating. The country is not in a shape to absorb all those young child and young youth minds to give them proper job even. So I think looking towards at the nation, that nation will create job for all of you, for all of us, is not going to be a possibility anymore. Rather, we have to be very realistic that well, we are going to be able to shape our own career in a way so that we can create our own life in a platform that we can float around here and there, and we can reach to the success ladder. An enormous opportunity for Bangladeshi young students at this moment is there, I would say, because all of you are very connected in a world. That world is connected from each part or each corner of the world is so much connected. You see, no matter what problem in our country, there is always an opportunity to do business, to go for entrepreneurship, to even invest your time, to do something individually and see that well, eventually you become a successful individual at this, at that time. So I think for you all to think and agree on that things that well, for you a BCS job should not be a dream, or for you a government job is the ultimate thing that you should think. For you, you are going to put yourself in a boundary that you simply cannot cross that boundary and leverage yourself in the upcoming years. That is not the bindings that I would like to see. Many of our young minds has a block mentality, the mentality within the box, and they have a primitive mindset in them. They always try to think and believe that well, just because I do not belong to a particular institution, maybe my future is going to be somehow, some way, compared to others, is going to be little behind. I would try to say all the young minds every time, all the time, I try to say that well, just forget about those barriers. The barriers that the nation has created in this country. The nation has created some institutions, some organization with false ego. And this egoistic barrier has to go out. Otherwise, you are going to put yourself in a boundary that you cannot simply shine. So if you think that you are not a graduate of BUET or Dhaka University or a medical college or engineering college or a named institution that has always a false ego inside, and you are going to put yourself within a boundary that you simply cannot unleash your own potential. So remember one thing, that well, the first very thing that for all the young minds has to agree on one thing, that we are not going to restrict ourselves within any sort of boundary. We do not believe that all the BUET graduates are going to be a successful one. We do not agree that all the medical graduates are going to be somebody who is extraordinarily brilliant. We would agree on one thing that, well, somehow, somewhere, I'm going to the top ladder of the success, and it is very possible if you truly believe that, well, I have power and I can unleash those hidden power in order to be successful in my own life. So how can I actually do that? How can I actually do that things? That is what is the main question. And that's why I say that, well, when you think the problem around you, if you try to see those problems around you, is always going to be a business opportunity for you. You think all the social problems that are existing in our society, in our community, in anywhere and everywhere, every single problems and issues are going to give you an opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to do something individually, to resolve an issue. So if you think problem-wise, there are problems that are existing in our surroundings, and if you think that, well, I can use my potential in order to solve those problems, you will also see that there is an opportunity for yourself to become an individual entrepreneur, to sell a product or a service that you are going to design, and that product or service eventually are going to be marketed, and you, as being a young entrepreneur or young innovators, you are going to see that whatever product or services that you are thinking is going to be truly sellable in the marketplace, and eventually you are going to see that, well, you can also flourish like anybody. Any success stories that we see, and most of them are facing problems with funding. Many of them get guidelines from here in this platform, and talking about that how they can actually fund those ideas. This is the great platform, I would say, that YACC is giving those leverage to the young minds of our country to come forward and to mingle in a platform where every solution you see that, well, every question has an answer, and eventually you will see that, well, you are going to use those understanding for shaping your own career and also helping others. Alright? Helping others. So in Bangladesh particularly, I myself has been observing after I returned from the US last 13-14 years. I have observed that many young minds, many young students, my own very students, I have seen in Dhaka city and also in the country, that they have become very successful entrepreneurs. They did not look forward to apply BCS exam. They did not have that sort of false ego that, well, country is going to give me an identity and I'm going to carry that false identity for next 30 years, and that eventually will take me somewhere. They have started their own journey, starting their own business and starting their own entrepreneurship. Eventually they have become very successful. Many of them are not only successful in the country but also globally they are doing very good. So this kind of session, I think the speakers, I have seen those who are going to speak, I have seen even their title of the topic they are going to focus on. This is something very important for all of you, that how a young mind can become, creative, innovative, and also sort of identifying the problems and issues and causes around us, and those issues, problems are a great opportunity to do business. I think every single young mind has to understand one point, that if we look forward for a job that somebody else is going to give me, it is not the solution in the upcoming days. This country is full of young people, and for those young graduates and young people, there never ever is going to be a possibility of getting that many jobs, and job is not the only solution for our life. Rather, we should believe in that, well, I being as an individual, I have some sort of capacity, and if I would like to do something my own way, eventually I will be a successful entrepreneur. And if you see many examples across the world, many of you already know those successful stories across the world, that many failures, even for a young kid, eventually given us the success stories at the end of the journey. And I am sure that, well, you all are going to also think in that direction, that, well, I'm going to take an initiative, and that initiative will take me somewhere down the road. And in the journey, I'm going to see the roads are not that smooth. No success roads are going to be a smooth road. The journey is going to be bumpy. The journey will have some, curvy roads, and you are going to see eventually that those bumpy roads and the car, that if you make right this direction, decision in those corners of the journey or turning point, and if you make one after one decision, you should be able to reach to the ultimate destination, the destination that we all call that, well, a point of success that we all are going to reach. So I think let us try to think in that direction, that, well, take out our false ego first, that where do I belong? Many private university students always has a mindset that, well, just because we are not a student of a government university, that doesn't, necessarily mean for you, in my view, that, well, you cannot do many things beyond the, the government university students like that. I would always say that, well, you guys are even more powerful. You should be able to do equally, even in most cases, far better if you think right in right direction. In my experience, I have seen many of my graduates, even from a private university, they have set example in this country and eventually become a great human being in order to resolve a cause for the society and doing their own entrepreneurship or business and eventually become a successful one. So in that respect, I must thank the YSSC to take this kind of initiative and bringing this sort of initiative again and again in front of the young audience and giving sort of support to the young generation, that the young generation needs to become motivated to do something great eventually for their own life and also for the betterment of our own country. So I hope that, well, today's Youth Symposium would be a successful symposium, and I'm sure that you all are going to benefit from this session as a whole, and at the end of the day, in the evening, you are going to be enriched with many more potential ideas and many more energy that you are going to gather from here. And once you leave this room, leave this campus, something is going to bother yourself to do something in this community for your own sake and also for the sake of our nation. I would thank all the organizers, particularly my colleagues from the business school and from my university staff members, and eventually those who have come from outside. Everyone, again and again, thank you very much for coming here at Primeasia University and also spending a good 4 hours or 5 hours time. And I'm sure that your journey in life would be valuable, and also today's time is going to be very fruitful. Thank you once again for inviting me and having me over here.